Ready, set, go!
It's pretty hard to believe that in less than 9 months, we've gone from this bare-bone skeleton to this structurally complete hull that I can now run around inside of. Even little Sierra's impressed.
Oh, thank you, Sierra.
Brian, it looks really good.
Right now, we're at a pretty cool stage in the build. The foundation is complete, and before we're ready to start fitting out the boat with cabinets, walls, electronics, toilets, and all that other cool stuff, we've got to lay some of the important groundwork that will create structure for the interior fit-out, and set us up to install some of the critical, behind-the-scenes components, like our gray water system, for example. So that's our focus in today's episode. We're taking the holes from this to this. And we also get a pretty exciting delivery that we've been anxiously awaiting for months.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like Christmas came early.
The systems fit out has begun in earnest, which is awesome. I'm really excited. It's really nice to be doing something besides metalwork for a little while. We put in the Nani diesel the other day.
Keep going down.
No, hold. Now my focus has been on running conduits and hoses and anything else that needs to go inside the holes in preparation for placing the insulation, because once I get all that figured out, it's going to make placing the insulation a whole lot easier.
Deciding what type of insulation to go with has been a lengthy process for us. We went back and forth between some different options like spray foam, insulation panels, and thermal coating, but after posting a video and asking the Delos tribe for some advice, we got some amazing information and feedback. And as it turns out, the option that I originally wanted to avoid is looking like it's going to be our best bet.
Right now, I'm leaning towards doing spray foam. So if you think about just how easy it would be or less labor intensive to just basically spray an area like this with a closed cell polyurethane spray foam, you get good coverage, you get good sound and good thermal insulation. The downfall is that it'll be a little bit more work after it's sprayed. So basically then you have to go back and cut out places where you don't want the spray foam. But more to come on that later. Today I really wanted to talk about the gray water system. And this gray water system is actually very much inspired by the system we have on Delos, because I think it works very well.
Let's just pause for a second here and explain what gray water is in case you're not familiar with that term. Gray water is wastewater that comes from stuff just like you would have in a normal home, such as sinks, showers, the washing machine, and in the case of boats, we also have stuff like the undrinkable water from your desalinator and the hot exhaust water from the air conditioner that all needs to leave the boat somehow. It's pretty much everything liquid that comes out of the boat except from the toilets.
And so a lot of boats I've seen, let's say that you have, this is going to be our head right here. So let's say that you have a shower and a sink. Right underneath that, you might have a through hole to let the water out. And in the back somewhere, you're going to have the desalinator or the hot exhaust water for the air conditioning, which each need water coming out of the boat, in which case you might put a through hole there. And so you end up with all these different through holes around the boat, and I've seen 10, 12, 14 sometimes, and they're spaced all over the boat, and I think it's just an absolute nightmare.
Having that many through holes makes some aspects simpler by not having to route and move water around the boat. But in my eyes, each through hole is another spot on the boat that needs maintenance and inspections, another spare part to carry, and most importantly, another spot that water can enter the boat in potentially catastrophic ways. Check out this video we saw on Yachting Monthly, where they did a test to show an example of just how much water can come through a faulty through hole.
We'll be able to see just how much water comes into the boat through one of these fittings. So here we go.
So the system we designed for Delos 2.0 aims to minimize the number of points that we have to worry about this happening. And it's actually based on the setup we had on the original Delos.
And so what Delos does, and does very well, is there's one gray water system that runs from the bow all the way to the stern. It's a 38 millimeter hose, 1.5 inches, and every time that you need to have gray water leave the boat, you just tap into that hose. It then goes to a gray water tank, and then it gets pumped overboard. So you don't have all these through holes all over the boat, which I really like. It is a little bit more work and a little bit more materials, but I think it's well worth it. And I think I'm even gonna try and one-up that design a little bit.
We're gonna do that by taking advantage of the vertical space we have in each hole and let gravity do most of the work instead of the pump that we had on the original Delos. We've got about 65 millimeters of fall to work with. Some idea is to run this gray water hose through the mouse holes, starting at the highest point on one end and welding little supports along the way that slowly drop in height along the length of the boat, creating a gradual slope that will let gravity do its thing of moving the water along towards the through hole in the stern. Then whenever we need gray water to leave, we can just tap into that central hose with these pieces here. We even got these cool connectors from Forespar that will allow us to pass through what will eventually become our watertight bulkheads. The team at Vetus actually came by the other day and dropped off lots of amazing goodies we'll be using for this project.
Yeah, it's like Christmas came early.
Plus some other cool stuff for our propulsion system that we're starting to piece together. We really can't recommend these guys enough, and besides supplying super high quality products, we're also just so grateful at how much expertise they've brought to the table in helping us plan and make countless decisions while putting together these complicated systems.
Ventilation, no smell filters for the black water tanks. We've got hoses for everything. The fit out has begun.
With all the components on hand and a plan in place, let's hop back in the hole and show you how it's all gonna go down.
Here's my method. So I made these angle brackets with pre-drilled holes on them, already cleaned and ground, and they're gonna be placed right here. And so basically what I do is I'm on my third frame back, which means I need to have dropped 3 centimeters by now. So what I do is I mark where the hose is at the top. I get it level by eye, and then I just put a little mark where that is. So that's my 0, that's the top. And then I measure down 3 centimeters and make another mark. So there's my 3 centimeter drop. I line those marks up, make sure it's centered. Looks pretty good to me. Clamp it on.
And then it's time to start welding. Before we started building this boat, I had close to 0 knowledge on working with metal.
I'm not sure what I did. I melted something.
And while I've still got a long way to go from calling myself a proper buckethead, I have to say, it's a pretty incredible feeling to be able to tackle some of these welding projects on my own and being able to get creative with some of my solutions while designing all the systems of the boat.
And then since these are set, I can use this piece flat T-bar. I put it in between it. I measure to find the center points, and I mark this guy. So that's where I'll cut it, and then I'll weld those in the middle.
To keep everything organized, I numbered all the frames and the supports, so we could mark and measure them all at once. I then cut them all down to size in one go, and using the numbers, I was able to easily put everything back in order before welding them on. With my method dialed in and running smoothly, it was just a matter of repetition and execution. I think it came out really well so far, until I finished mapping everything out to know exactly where we'll tap into the central hose for each gray water source. I'd taken it as far as I can go for now. One of the biggest flaws on our old setup on Delos was that food debris from the kitchen sink would often clog the pump, creating a rather nasty blockage to clean out and causing a backup to deal with. But now, our kitchen sink, along with almost all our other gray water sources, will be higher than the main hose. So this will all be gravity fed with no pump to get blocked. But our bilge pumps, plus our bathroom sinks and showers will be lower, and these will need to be pumped up to the main hose. This brings us to a good question that Kaza was wondering as we surveyed my work.
I understand when the water comes, let's say, from a hatch down.
Yep.
But what if you put a connector that comes up from the bottom?
Yep.
How do you prevent that from filling first?
So there are these...
It's like a one-way...
It's basically a one-way valve. For example, for the shower, which has a drain in the bottom, and the sink, which drains down, it drains into pretty much a basin. It's a little box, and inside that box it has a water catchment area, so it's like a mini gray water sump, and then it has a pump in it, and then it has a one-way valve. So it'll just pump the water up, in, and water will stay in that tube, but it won't be able to drain back down.
Yeah, and also like if it comes a lot of water from the hatches, let's say, then like...
So that's another good point, is I've done the calculation with the size of the hatch drains and the size of this tubing. And even if we have some deluge of a rainstorm or we take a lot of waves into the hatches, we should have plenty of capacity in this hose to handle all of that. And let's say that the worst tragedy occurs where we're taking waves over the boat and the hatches are draining into this and the bilge pumps are going into this and it can't drain fast enough. We still have the overflow, which is the hatches themselves. So the bilge pump will have enough force because it can go up, it can pump up 3 meters. And so this is 1 meter, 2 meters puts us it's like 2.4 meters from the bottom up to the deck. So we would literally just, in the worst case of an emergency, water would be coming out the back and we could just force water out
to the deck, on the deck of the boat. Okay.
Yeah, so that's it. So yeah, it's a combination of gravity fed from the top and then pumped up from the bottom for bilge pumps and gray water tank for shower and sinks.
So that's a wrap on the gray water system for now. But before we dive into our next big project, I want to show you a little side quest I've been up to this week.
One other cool thing I want to show you that I did. The other day I had about a spare hour between projects, but I was waiting for something. Look at that. You know, it's quite a big step down, so I just wanted to make a platform so you can step on that. I think I'll put like a little handle on here, but the nice thing about it is you can move it and it's removable, so you can still, if you want to get it out of the way, you can access things. And I made this as like a little tray that I can set tools and stuff on when I'm working on the engine. And it's very light. I don't know why, but I'm real proud of that.
I'm proud of you too. It's like your first little Brian project.
Yeah, use my new welding skills.
Yeah.
The other thing that's pretty cool about that is I did it 100% out of scrap metal. So it was all just like scrap plate and scrap tubing, box tubing that I found in the recycling pile.
Are you definitely gonna have a little welder on board?
Yeah. You know I am.
Do little Brian welding projects?
I could build cool stuff for the neighbors too.
Yeah.
If anybody needs any aluminum welding. Anyway, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, it turned out great.
When we're out sailing, it's way easier to stay fit. Our food choices are actually pretty basic and there are plenty of opportunities for exercise. But here on land, I'm finding it a little bit more difficult, which is why I'm happy to say that today's video is proudly sponsored by Lumen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach, and it is this device right here. Here is how it works.
Inhale deeply through your lumen. Hold your breath.
Every morning, first thing I do when I wake up, before I do anything else, is I check my metabolism.
Exhale in 3, 2, 1.
And then Lumen gives me a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on my measurements. I also find it very cool to check my metabolism after I eat or work out, and it's really interesting to see how what you're doing in real time affects your body. So if you'd like to take the next step in improving your metabolic health, it is super easy. All you have to do is visit lumen.me/Delos, and you will get a cool 20% off. Once again, that's lumen.me/DELOS for Delos to get 20% off, all while supporting our project and improving your metabolic health at the very same time. Okay, thank you so much for sponsoring this video, Lumen, and now let's get back to the build. Wow, it's actually been a few days since I've filmed anything. I've just been down in the hole working, just crushing some projects. I can show you what I've been up to here. So, you know, it was just used to be these frames here. And so what I've been doing is going and adding this T-bar everywhere to actually support the floor, making sure that it's all level, putting in access parts for around the tanks. Let me show you how the floor is gonna work. So this black stuff here is the Holypan flooring that I had all CNC cut. It is half the weight of even the lightest plywood that the designer spec'd. It is cut to go around the frames. And then it just sits like that. And so I'm basically adding all these pieces in. It's pretty sturdy. I'm thinking about putting one more support in the middle, especially where there's high traffic areas when we're coming down the stairs. Or one of the things I have to consider is everywhere that the flooring is going to be, and I have a hatch, I need to provide access to that. So I need to make a small cut in the flooring and then a small hatch of the floor that I can pull off to be able to get in for the tank access and the bilge pumps and all that stuff, which means I need to build a little bit of a frame. So you can see how I've started to do that here. So this subframe will give me access to this part of the tank right here. So I'm going to extend this out just a tiny bit with more flat bar. And then the normal floor will come, like, let's say, to right here. And then I will put that down like a small lid for tank access. All this stuff you got to think through. Okay, that's it. Back to work for me. This part was pretty time consuming and required quite a bit of finessing to get everything measured, cut, matched to the frame, leveled, welded on, and made perfectly flat with the grinder. The sweltering Australian summer heat and the angle I had to work with certainly didn't help either. A difficult position welding up and under the floor in a very awkward position. I can't use the fan because the fan will blow the argon gas out of the way that keeps the weld pure, keeps impurities out of it until it solidifies. You gotta get down low. It's real hot, it's real humid. Try doing that for like 6 or 7 hours a day. You really start to feel it in your knees, your back. Once the supports were all welded in, there was still a bit more work to do to prepare the Holypan. Morning. I've got a fun task I'm working on today. I'm kind of experimenting with different methods of cutting this Holypan for the flooring. So we got it CNC cut, and so it's about 98% of the way there, but there's a few little pieces that aren't quite right. Like that line should be there instead of there. That one should be cut like that. And so my job today or this morning is trying different methods of cutting this and trying to get the floor just to fit perfect so that I can walk on it and see if I'm actually on the right track and have enough supports and stuff. So that's my goal, get it to fit nice, get all the floor down in one hole, make sure that my supports are spaced correctly and everything just feels right. And so I bought a little multi-tool. So far it seems to be doing a pretty good job. Let me show you what I'm doing here. Pretty easy, really. It goes through this stuff like butter. So it gives me a nice clean cut, no dust, and I'm pretty happy with that result. Here's what the edge looks like when I'm done. And so I think that'll work. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this off and then we'll fit the floor and see how it goes. Next, I wanted to start experimenting with how we'd be building our non-watertight bulkheads, like this one that will create the wall of the head. We're going to use the same stuff as the floor, Holleypan, and some standard T-bar extrusions to give it added rigidity. The thing is though, T-bars come standard in 40mm size, but the Holleypan is only 17 mils thick, which if you just stick it together, like this would create a lip sticking out. Now imagine trying to cover that in a foam back vinyl. You would end up with a piece of metal sticking out along the whole height of the wall. So we need the whole thing to be perfectly flat and flush. To achieve this, I'm going to attempt to cut a small inlay along this edge of the Holleypan, and then trim down the extra material from the T-bar to match the thickness of the Holleypan, giving us a perfectly flat wall on both sides.
This is kind of a scrap piece I had laying around. I need to do a long one. It's going to be a little challenge to get it even, but I think we can get it.
The first step was cutting down the rough size of the bulkhead from the standard 2.4 meter, nearly 8 foot long piece. I used some T-bar clamped into place as a guide once I had my measurement. Now I created the inlay using the T-bar as a guide again, this time using the multi-tool to cut in the correct depth, and then again to cut out the material from the other angle. Now we have this side totally flush.
Perfect.
Then I just needed to cut off the excess height from the T-bar, and we should be good to go.
All right, that worked. The T ends up flush, which is what I wanted, so the proof of concept is a success.
But I might have gotten a bit ahead of myself by calling it a success, because when I returned after the weekend, I started having some doubts.
I was really happy about this on Friday, but now that I look at it again, I'm a little bit worried that it's not going to be strong enough, because it's the wall, and so we needed to have quite a bit of support. And after I trimmed this back, and I had to trim this edge, it became a little bit flexible. This stuff is 40 by 40, and so you can see like how much strength that has in it, right? I mean, it's pretty, this is the stuff we're using for the floor. It's plenty strong, but when I cut it back, it just becomes like, I mean, I just bent that, right? So.
Can we just do double Holleypan?
See, that's big. That's like 15 millimeters on the other side.
Yeah, and that's what makes it strong, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. You have any clever ideas? I mean, how do you build a very stiff, thin wall without a gap in the center that's flush on both sides? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I have no idea. Yeah, that's a tough one.
So we had a bit of pondering to do on this one. But in the meantime, we had something pretty sweet that brightened our day right up.
Exciting delivery today.
Yeah, I just got a call from the delivery driver, and I think that the rest of our hybrid system is finally cleared customs, and it's on its way here right now.
Yeah.
The only problem is there's nobody here that can drive a forklift today.
So we're gonna have to see.
Yeah, I don't know, we're gonna have to figure it out. They say it weighs more than I can carry.
Yeah.
Maybe I can unpack it. We'll see how patient the driver is.
Yeah, it depends on, because if the driver is like, I need to go, then yeah. But hopefully, cross our fingers that it will be okay and we can kind of just like unpack it and
Yeah.
We'll
It'll
see.
work out.
Wish us good luck.
Okay, well that was nice. He was very patient with us. So now we have it. This is a 25 kilowatt standalone motor. It'll connect straight to the shaft. You can see it's water cooled, so this is probably water, cooling water going in and out. This is going to be the belt drive motors you can see on the front. It has the belt, the cog belt. That'll be on the hybrid side. It's happening, Kaz. Everything's coming together. It took forever to get this stuff though. I've been waiting. I paid for it in June. So it's been almost, 7 months.
Wow.
Yep.
That's why things get delayed, huh?
If I didn't order this in June, no, I actually ordered it in April, paid for it in June, and then,
he can't get out.
oh, he should be able to get out.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we have to sign something. He just got back, like. Okay, yeah, but it is crazy like how long things take, and I think that's one of the things that we're just realizing, that like you need to have so much lead time, and people are usually pretty optimistic with their timing, and they're like, yeah, we'll arrive fast. Like even when I was buying the fridge and stuff, I called them beforehand and I was like, do you have this in stock? And they were like, yeah, no worries. And then I called a month later, I'm like, I want to buy it, and they're like, no, we won't get it until 4 months from now. And I'm like, what? So it's been like that quite a few times, and I guess we are on an island, so it's a little bit more difficult.
It's a big island. It's still an
yeah. It still stuff still has to come with like boat and plane. That's crazy.
Some beefy cables there, huh?
Yeah. They did pack it really good.
It was packed pretty good. Came all the way from the Netherlands like that.
Yeah.
Everything looks like it's good, no damage and stuff, so yeah.
Cool.
Time to get to work,
Yes.
as if we haven't been working already. Get even more to work.
We've gotten so much interest in our hybrid setup, so we actually filmed an entire Q&A and bonus video as we take everything out of the box and dive into the nitty-gritty. It's available to watch right now for our patrons. If you're interested in bonus content like this, watching all our episodes a week early with no ads and other cool perks like invites to meetups here at the Boatyard, join our inner tribe at patreon.com/svdelos. But now let's get back to these bulkheads. I put some more thought into it, and in reality, it seems like doubling up on the holly pan might be the best and most simple solution here. Doing it this way means I had only to trim off a few mils for everything to sit flush. And after doing a test piece, I found that with this much smaller adjustment, it was way stronger than our first try. But before I could take the next step and start figuring out the exact placement and measurements on the bulkheads, I wanted to finish up the floors and make sure I was 100% happy with all the supports, since the T-bar for the bulkheads will eventually be welded right onto them.
All right, I got the floor test fit and it actually looks pretty cool. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Looks beautiful actually. It's nice and smooth and flat. Check it out. Maybe I'll do a running test here. Okay, you ready? Ready, set, go! Even though it's not bolted in, unless I step on the very edge, it feels pretty good. So that's a good sign, I think. My Operation Floor Support Welding success. Making progress, that feels good. And now I'll pull it all up again, put it somewhere safe because we were about to finish all the welding in the hull. So, you know, all the stuff outside is done, but what we need to do now is we've installed all the hatch frames. So all of these guys that are just tacked need to be fully welded. So that's why I need to take the floor up, because I don't want to risk damaging it with any of the sparks or anything coming down. So we got to do all that. We have to install the bulkhead doors, which is going to require a little bit of welding. We need to install the flanges for the hatch frames because, the hatch frames, the whole hatches, because these need to come out flush like this for our liners. And then obviously the bulkhead for the head. I'm walking in the head right now, and so we need to weld that bulkhead in, which is going to be quite a bit of welding. We've got the escape hatch frame that needs to be welded in. I'm sure there's more stuff, but that's the highlights. And so that's going to be the focus for the next week or so, is to get the port side hull completely welded and finished. And then I can finish putting in like
all the through holes, starting to run all the hoses, like the fill tube for the fuel and the water, and running those hoses back to the engine room for the vent and the fuel feed for the filters. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's gonna start happening as soon as we get all the welding done. So we're gonna start in this hole, the port hole, and then we're gonna move over and do the exact same thing in the starboard hole. All right, I ended up picking up the temporary floor, and what I really want to do now is do like a proof of concept of the idea that I have for the bulkhead and just see if it's going to work at all. So I've got this T-bar that I've trimmed down just enough so that it is 34 mils wide, and what I want to do is just tack it in place vertically where the new thicker bulkhead would go. So you can see I've got the thicker bulkhead marked out, and I've marked out 150 millimeters on each side because this is going to be a corner right here, and so we want to do like a little bit of a radius. It's enough on both sides to go straight, do the curve around the wall, and then straight again. So that's why this is inset 150 millimeters from the straight edge here, so the curve would kind of be somewhere like that. And then I'm going to tack this in place. I'm going to get it vertical. I'm going to trim it a little bit at the top, and then I'm gonna cut a piece of that holly pan and just put it up there and just see how it feels. The nice thing about working with metal is if I mess it up, I just cut it off, I grind it, I can weld it back, grind it again. It's actually really nice like that. So I'm gonna do this as like a proof of concept. So here we go, wish me luck. I've got this tacked in here, just a couple little spots up at the top and the bottom to hold it. And it was a little challenge to get it level without any extra hands, but that's vertically that way, looking pretty good. And then that way, looking pretty good too. So, and then I went ahead and I measured it. So I just took the level out to the stringers on the hole, got it level, then I measured the distance down to the base. And so basically now I have a set of measurements that are scribbled on this piece of paper with a distance to the hole and a distance up from the floor. And so that should hopefully allow me, if I do it correctly, to create a profile that goes from basically a cut that'll go like that, like that, like that, like that, if everything goes correctly. So okay, well, there's my profile. I guess let's just take it up there and see if it fits, see how accurate my measurements were. Close. Needs a little tweaking at the bottom though. It's a perfect job for the multi-tool. It's not bad really. We're a little tight right there. We're a little tight right there, just on those two corners. Other than that, we did a pretty good job with it. When I push this in where I glue it, it'll be flush along that edge right there. And then what I'll do is I can weld mounts here to glue it to. So glue, 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 and then I'll also put a flat bar here for the liner that'll come out, because the liner is going to come and attach right like that. And then this will all be filled in with insulation. So I'm trying to picture it now. Once I put the piece on the other side, I think it'll be a pretty strong bulkhead. And then of course the ceiling liner will come right here, boom, like that. So this will all be filled in with insulation. This will all be filled in with insulation. And once I put the other piece on this side, then it'll be flush on both sides. I'm actually a little bit surprised that it fit that well. Guess I should have more trust in my measuring
But anyway, I'll get Dan's opinion on it on Monday, see what he thinks. I'll get Kaz's opinion on it when she picks me up today, see what she thinks. And we'll go from there, but I think so far I'm pretty happy with it. What do you think? It's right here, Sierra.
It's right here. We're talking about this. Daddy made this wall here. That's awesome. Brian, it looks really good.
It does look good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna, yeah, go ahead.
It's amazing.
Oh, thank you, Sierra.
Oh, that's really sweet. Daddy does some amazing stuff, right? Very impressed by this. This is awesome.
So for this, on these, I'm gonna put like angle like that.
Yeah.
And then I'll do this at the same height out as this for the liner, right?
Yeah. But you're still thinking about doubling it, right?
I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah.
Or if I glue this together and make it strong, then I would do foam. Just like real lightweight foam on one side.
On one side.
Yep, on the inside.
Okay.
The shower side.
Yeah.
But I don't know, this stuff is so light, you know? It doesn't really, we're not losing any weight. Like, we're just not making any gains
Yeah.
if I double it up, right?
I'm still not 100% sold on this setup, but overall, I'm pretty stoked with the concept and how it turned out. When Dan gets back after the weekend, I want to run it by him too and see what ideas he might have on how to improve things. The nice thing now is there are so many cool projects to work on. It feels good to bounce around a bit and let each project come to fruition and evolve in its own time.
Sometimes I feel like I just push and push and push on projects and that they take me so long, ridiculously long. Like the tanks, for example, I just kept on like working on it a few days here, a few days there. I got tired of it, I got frustrated. I went and tried another method. The same thing with the floors. I had to redo it a few times until I learned the right technique, and then I had to move the bulkhead because Kaz and I figured that it's actually in the wrong place and we needed a little bit more room in the shower, so that took some time. So I redid that, but I think I found that if I just keep pushing on things a little bit by little bit, constant pressure, not try to get frustrated, not get discouraged, learn from my mistakes, move forward, try something else, and eventually something works. And so, gosh, I hope that everybody thinks that this bulkhead is good. And that when I have the whole thing done, that I don't realize I've missed some huge thing, but only time will tell. And if I did, then I'll know another way not to build a bulkhead, so. Okay, off to whatever the next thing is.
We really hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We wanted to try something a little different and a little bit of a longer style, leaving in more of the thought processes and trials and errors and really letting the projects play out in more detail. Let us know what you think about the style in the comments below. And if you're new here, this is actually part 23 of building our own aluminum expeditionary catamaran from scratch. Click on this playlist here and binge to get caught up from day one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next Friday.